Primetime local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime Local News. There are 31 new cases of COVID-19 in Saskatchewan. 22 of those cases are in Hutterite colonies in the North, South, Central and Saskatoon regions. 307 cases are considered active. 14 people are in hospital, 4 in intensive care, and a total of 886 people have recovered. The cities of Bonnyville, Cold Lake and St. Paul continue to face the challenges presented with the COVID-19 pandemic. Connor Chan chats with MLA David Hanson on how the communities have been changing.
Joining me today is MLA from Bonnyville, Cold Lake and St. Paul, David Hanson. David, first off, thanks a lot for joining me today.
Not a problem, Connor.
Let's start with just some general outlooks on how the communities of Bonnyville and St. Paul and Cold Lake have handled the COVID pandemic. I know it's been different from community to community, but just give us a sense on what those communities have gone through and also what you've been hearing from the residents there.
Well, I think overall our area up in Northeast has done a great job. We've had very, very few cases right from the beginning on. We have a couple of active cases right now, but other than that, I think the communities have done a great job.
Let's start with just kind of what has the general response been from people? Like, what's been the number one kind of common thing you've been hearing? You know, I know with stores, businesses being closed, have there been other kind of economic worries in those regards?
Oh, for sure. You know, with some of our smaller operators, the hair salons and podiatrists, that kind of thing, that, you know, that was a big part of their business is one-on-one contact, and even some of the gyms and trainers and that, I heard quite a bit from them, you know, anxious to get back to work. So I'm glad that, you know, during these phases of reopening that we can get these guys back at it. And it's been a tough ride, but we'll, you know, I have to commend our residents for following the rules.
How do you feel the way that Jason Kenney has handled the province of Alberta's COVID-19 plan?
Well, I think he's done a pretty good job considering, you know, we were one of the most open jurisdictions throughout this, and we've managed to keep our numbers relatively stable.
Now, with many cities across the province already talking about making masks mandatory, I just want your general opinion on what you think if they should be mandatory in the Lakeland regions here, and just your general thoughts on that.
Well, I think it's a little bit different when you look at areas like Edmonton, Calgary that have had some significant numbers. And when you got people in confined areas like buses and that, I can understand the need for when you can't properly social distance to have a mask on.
But do you think it also makes sense as well, just to kind of also from a safety measure as well in those smaller communities? Because I know, you know, it doesn't matter where you are. It should also be, you know, some health precautions could also be taken.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be mandatory at this point, but I think if people are nervous about it, that, you know, if they feel more comfortable wearing a mask, or if they're a business owner and they're more comfortable having people wear a mask, then that should be their decision.
Last week, it was announced that students in Alberta will be going back to school. We did speak with Garth Rosewell last week about the plans within, like, his thoughts on Scenario 1. So now I just want to love to know what you thought of the Education Minister's plan with Scenario 1 and opening schools back up to students.
Well, you know, they spend a lot of time this summer watching COVID-19, how it responds, especially with kids. And I think they've done their assessment properly, and we look forward to getting kids back into the classroom where they belong, and hopefully we can get there with following some pretty stringent guidelines.
Have you talked to those school divisions in Bonnyville, Cold Lake, St. Paul? And I know every school division is going to be different when it comes to physical distancing. Have you talked to those school divisions in particular and what their plan could be?
Just, you know, briefly with touch and base to make sure they're comfortable with it. I know that the school boards across the province have been in support of getting students back into the classroom. So I look forward to helping out wherever I can.
Going back a little bit to talking about some of the communities that are kind of still recovering, I know it's not quite over yet with this pandemic. Do you feel like the way that your area in particular with Bonnyville, Cold Lake, and St. Paul have done are going to continue to hopefully find ways to economically and also just recover emotionally, I guess?
Yeah, you know, we've had, it's not just COVID, we've had quite a blow to our communities up there in Northeast because of the lower oil prices. So hopefully with if we can get oil back up to a reasonable amount per barrel and reduce these restrictions, and, you know, hopefully we don't see another outbreak with COVID-19 that affects us economically.
Well, David, I really appreciate your time, and thanks a lot for joining me today.
No problem, Connor, anytime.
It's time now for this week's Retrospect. Here's Blake Nath.
This week in retrospect, back in 1995, Border Bars backlash against the liquor consumption tax.
I should not have to pay that 7% liquor consumption tax. The guys in Saskatchewan, on the Saskatchewan side in Lloyd, don't pay it. Okay.
Like many Midwest business owners, Barry Scherstbedoff is upset with what he calls the NDP's unfair tax policies. The Marshall Hotel owner says taxes like liquor consumption are driving his business into the ground, pointing out it's already tough to compete with neighboring centers like Lloydminster, even without the tax.
I have to compete with casinos, strippers, pari-mutuel betting, bingos, top quality entertainment.
And he isn't the only one who's feeling the crunch. The owner of the Neilburg Hotel says everyone near Lloydminster is losing out in a big way.
We feel that if people are going to go to Lloyd to buy the cheaper beer, they will also fill up gas, buy cigarettes, groceries, and then what happens to the small towns?
And in 2000, the Lloydminster Airport and other local businesses deal with a rising water table.
If only it was oil, but it's water that's coming up from the ground.
After they did the mat on the taxiway in the ramp area, we discovered our water table was too high and it was causing blisters on the new mat.
These are what the blisters look like. The concern is, once that winter comes, the water trapped will expand, therefore wrecking the smooth surface. The wet weather is also having an impact at Silverdale Construction, a pipeline company. Several contracts can't be fulfilled because of the damp conditions.
Normally at this time we would have several crews out working, but again, because of the weather, it's held us up.
Because the ground is wet, digging into it has proven somewhat futile as it comes in on itself.
We tend not to have the crews work in these kind of conditions. It just slows up the productivity of the work, and it makes it unsafe for our people.
And that's it for this week in retrospect.
Retrospect this week is brought to you by Webb's Ford. Worth your while to drive the extra mile. Webb's Ford in Vermilion.
Now our Connor Chan will take a look at your weather forecast.
All right, thanks very much, Jasmine. It was a beautiful day outside today. Clear skies, 27 degrees, because now that means we are officially in a heat warning right now for many parts of Alberta, including us here in Lloydminster, as well as in Saskatchewan as well. 27 degrees is our ultimate daytime high today. We will get warmer as we move on into coming days here, but right now 28 in Vermilion, 28 in Vegreville and St. Paul, along with Lac La Biche and Cold Lake, 30 degrees out in Edmonton, 27 in Provost and Macleod as well. North Battleford, Maidstone sitting at 26 degrees right now, 25 for St. Walburg, and 27 up in Isle La Crosse. So here's a look at the satellite radar map. There's not a whole lot to talk about because a lot of it's been clear skies, a little bit of patch of clouds there in that Edmonton area right now. But the big thing is those heat warnings that I was talking about. So as you can see, the purple-ish pink is the signal for heat warnings. Of course, all these areas here in the Alberta side, the St. Paul, Marwayne, Lloydminster, Vermilion areas are all under heat warnings. They could reach up to 29 degrees to 30 degrees in the next couple of days here. So make sure you're staying hydrated and staying cool as much as you can, as well as you can see also in the Saskatchewan areas as well. Maidstone, North Battleford areas, and the Meadow Lake areas, and up in the northern areas as well, also experiencing a heat warning, as well as we finally are getting close to the 30-degree mark here in the Lakeland region. So here's what we see mostly for North Battleford overnight: 13 degrees with clear skies overnight, going to 30 degrees tomorrow in North Battleford with cloud coverage and some sun as well. Still fairly hot, as well as in Cold Lake. Clear skies tomorrow, all sunshine with that high of 30 degrees tomorrow. And for us here in Lloydminster, we're just shy of the 30-degree mark with that high of 29 degrees and a little bit of cloud coverage, but still the heat's going to play a major factor heading into the next couple of days. So speaking of the next couple of days, here's what we could see: another day of 29 degrees on Wednesday as well, where we could possibly see some more, maybe close to 30-degree mark as well, and then maybe some rain on Thursday with a 52% chance of some showers there at that high still of 26 degrees. That's a first look at your weather forecast. We'll have more primetime local news coming up after the break.
Welcome back. With Lloydminster having a heat warning in effect, the SPCA wants to remind residents the dangers of leaving your pets in your vehicles. Our Shelby Clark has more.
Joining us today is Becca Lawrence from the SPCA. How are you today, Becca?
I'm good, and yourself?
I'm really good. So with the weather heating up into plus 30s this week, what do you want to remind residents to do to keep their pets safe?
Obviously, like the biggest one is, keep them in a nice cool place where they can stay in the shade or in the house, kind of where they can stay out of the, beaming hot sun, right? So, and then also, like, you just not leaving them in vehicles as well. Like, that's our biggest one, obviously, that we're always kind of pushing throughout the summertime. And then just, access to that water that they can have so they can stay hydrated as well.
And why is it important to not leave your pets in the vehicle in this weather especially?
It's just one of those things where obviously the vehicle's off, those temperatures rise extremely fast, even if the windows are open. It's just, it's that tin vehicle that it holds the heat in. So that's our biggest reason as to why you shouldn't take your animals with you. If you're doing your errands, but you're leaving the AC on, obviously worst case scenario, the AC stops working, kind of thing. And then that would be a danger to the animal as well. And then I think, honestly, just another big one is, if people feel so strongly about it, like, sometimes, authorities can be called, or worst case scenario, they're breaking a window to get your animal out of that vehicle.
And at what temperature would you say is the most dangerous to leave your pets in the vehicle?
Obviously, even right now, it's warm, like even if it's plus 20, some of us may not think that that's all that warm. For me, I'm always warm. So, but, in a vehicle, it's extremely warm. It climbs quite quickly, and it can get to the plus 30s before you even know it. So it doesn't take long. Within 10 minutes, typically it rises at least 10 degrees in a vehicle. So you can imagine if you're in a store for 20 minutes to half an hour, it's going to be extremely hot in there.
And what would you suggest for residents to do with their pets instead of leaving them in the vehicle if they aren't able to leave them at home?
If you can find, there's tons of those pet sitters around right now. Obviously, if you're out for errands, it's not something you're really going to want to do. But obviously, it's one of those things where you say, at least leave the air conditioning on. If you do have to take your pets with you, minimize the amount of time you're in that store, to no longer than 5 minutes, right? It's just, again, it's one of those worst case scenarios. The AC stops working and extremely hot in the vehicle, but it's one of those things. If you can't take your animal with you, at least minimize the time frame that you're in each of those stores for sure.
And is there anything else you'd like to add as a reminder for pet owners during this hot weather?
Just, take care of them, watch them. Obviously dogs, especially, their normal temperaments are to pant a lot. So, that helps them sweat. Dogs don't sweat normally like we do, so they can't regulate heat like we do. They sweat through their feet, but then again, if they're still, they have all that fur on them, and, it holds that heat in. So, typically if you are taking your dog with you, take it to places where you can take that animal inside with you, because it's just one of those cases where, like I said, lots of people feel pretty strongly about it, and which is fine too as well. But it's one of those things where even if your dog's fine, someone else might not. So it's just one of those things just to be cautious of for sure.
And at the SPCA, are there any incidents right now with people leaving their pets in the vehicles?
Not too much. Obviously, if we ever do get any phone calls like that, we're recommending people to contact the Lloydminster bylaw. Because in a case like that too, if an animal is in distress, it isn't legal for you to break that window open. You can get charged for that and things like that. So it's best to let the authorities to deal with that. And then we always say too, if you're risking breaking that window open, you are risking that animal, and you're also risking yourself too, because sometimes that can make the dog panic and you could get bit too, kind of thing. So we always recommend not breaking the windows, but if you do see an animal in distress, not even just in a vehicle, in general, just call your local bylaw enforcement.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us again, Becca, and giving us some tips to keep pets safe right now.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having us.
4 days ago was the MLB's opening day, pushed 4 months from its original start date. Already into the short-lived season, problems are starting to arise. Evan Kenny and Eric Bay have more.
4 days ago was the MLB's opening day, which is supposed to be a celebration each year. Unfortunately, this year it is being overshadowed by a number of different reasons. Joining me today to discuss this is our Eric Bay. Eric, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, for sure. Again, you mentioned overshadowed, and it was pretty exciting, but we've seen it kind of take a turn here for sure.
Now, in what we are talking about is the COVID problem happening in Miami. The Miami Marlins have 14 players and coaches testing positive for the virus. They've already played 3 games. Eric, how bad is this for the MLB?
Oh, it's definitely a major concern, and this was really the entire problem. I know we've talked, obviously the Blue Jays couldn't find a home, and this was really the reason for it. They wouldn't be allowed in Toronto, and it was specifically the teams from Florida, and lo and behold, it's a Florida team testing positive, and you mentioned 14 different players and coaches, and they've already played games, so this is not only affecting them, they've canceled their game tonight against the Orioles, and also where they just played in Philadelphia, they have canceled that game as well, the Phillies and the Yankees. Phillies are under quarantine as well as their visiting clubhouse staff. The Yankees were going to be bringing their own clubhouse staff to try and mitigate the risk factor. But again, 14 players, that's your entire team. That's over an entire starting lineup. So that's definitely a big concern, and it's going to be something we're going to see here. This could even change, by tomorrow, right? We just don't know how it's going to unfold.
Now, Eric, the MLB is the only one of the major sports not doing a hub city. Obviously, it's tough for baseball, especially having the full season, but as well playing in, these giant ballparks and these outdoor type stadiums. I mean, how do you think they could have done a bubble system if you think there is a way they could have?
Yeah, and I mean, again, there's no perfect way to do this. Obviously, this is our first time going through a pandemic, and, even with the whole bubble security, if something's going to get through, it's going to get through. There's just, no way around it. You can do everything you want to do, but I really do feel like, from what we've seen, a bubble would kind of be the safest option, because I think the main thing is just all the travel. And even if you did cut it down and have the teams, maybe only play their division or travel once, maybe twice a year to play that opposite division in the opposite league, I mean, again, it mitigates those risk factors, because when you have people, going home out and about, and again, the traveling, it just is so much easier to pass to, and it's such a concern as well when you look at baseball. It was supposed to be, in theory, the safest one to play, just because you could kind of distance out in the field, and we've seen already in one weekend how quick it's changed. So again, not really sure how they could have gotten around it with playing outside and everything, but again, obviously a very tough situation for the MLB.
Now, one thing that different people have brought up is maybe having a host city or a hub city in each of the different divisions there. I mean, obviously the MLB did not go with that route, and we're seeing right now how it is paying off. I mean, Eric, opening weekend obviously overshadowed by COVID. However, there were some bright spots over the weekend. Why don't you just say some of your favorites?
I mean, honestly, my favorite was just the fact that we have sports and baseball on TV again. That's really kind of all I've done when I've had free time this entire weekend leading into the week, is watching baseball. And I think one of the things we kind of looked at or thought would be unique is obviously no fans in the stands, and the broadcasters aren't even there, so how that's going to affect the broadcast. But I mean, really, once you get over that fact, after the first couple innings, there's really no difference. I like the cardboard cutouts in the stands. They're kind of funny. You don't even really need the crowd noise. Again, it's just the fact that baseball's on. The one thing I will say, though, Fox, they tried to have, their graphic fans in the stands. Didn't work so well. I wasn't a big fan of that. But again, hey, baseball's on. I can't complain. I just hope we can get through this next little stretch here.
For me, or for sure, rather, for myself, my favorite part of the opening weekend was Nelson Cruz. I mean, he's a specimen of a hitter, especially if you're like me and you love the deep ball. He went deep twice and added 7 RBIs, all in one game. Eric, I know it is very early, as we're only 4 days into the MLB regular season, but do you have a pick for a World Series yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody does when you go in, right? And it obviously is a little bit changed with the expanded playoffs, but I think this year, again, more than any ever, it's almost like the NBA where you have your two juggernauts in each league. And I really think it will be the Yankees playing the Dodgers. Again, you just look at their lineups top to bottom. The offense is incredible, let alone their pitching. But for me, I think the Dodgers get the edge by just a little bit. And I think it's because once you get into that October baseball, pitchers are better, a little bit colder, the ball doesn't fly as far. I think the Dodgers lineup is built better to play, the hit a few singles, get guys around the base instead of relying on that long ball, kind of like the Yankees are.
Well, Eric, thank you for giving us some of your insight. It's always a pleasure chatting with you.
Hey, for sure. And looking forward to next week when we have even more sports on to talk about.
Now our Connor Chan will take a look at your weather forecast.
All right, thanks very much, Jasmine. Taking a look at the graph here. Once again, this is the heat warning. These are the areas that are currently affected right now. Now there are some areas down in the southern areas of Alberta and Saskatchewan that are also affected there. Of course, Lloydminster, they could see very warm temperatures, maybe close to the 30-degree mark over the next couple of days. Some cities are in the 30-degree mark, like Edmonton right now. But as we take a look at some temperatures right now across the region here, the central region, 29 out in Edmonton. They did drop down 1 degree there, but Edson at 30 degrees right now, 33 in Jasper, 27 in Red Deer and Rocky Mountain House and Athabasca and Whitecourt, sitting at 29 degrees right now. North Battleford at 27 right now, along with Meadow Lake and Prince Albert, 28 in Saskatoon and 26 degrees in Melfort. Now let's take a look at the northern areas right now. 30 up in Fort McMurray and Slave Lake, Buffalo, Narrows, and La Loche sitting at 27. La Roche sitting at 26, with Flin Flon sitting at 25 degrees. A little bit cooler on Wollaston Lake, sitting at 22 right now, but 30s, lots of 30-degree marks in the northern areas like and Grand Prairie and Slave Lake sitting at 30 and 31 degrees, and Peace River sitting at 29, with Fort Chipewyan at 28 degrees. Here's where a lot of the heat warnings are in effect right now for those southern areas. As you can see, in Medicine Hat, 32 degrees right now. They've been fairly warm over the last several days, even before today. 30 degrees in Lethbridge, which has also been fairly warm. 27 in Calgary, and a nice 31 degrees up in down in Banff right now, and then 28 in Coronation with 27 degrees in Calgary. Then we move into Saskatchewan. They have also experienced lots of warm temperatures over the last week or so. As we look at Moose Jaw's, 27 degrees right now, and Kindersley and Regina, Yorkton and Estevan all sitting at 26 degrees right now, and Swift Current sitting right now at 25 degrees. So here's what it looks like across the rest of the country. A little bit more tamed in the Maritimes there at 16 degrees in St. John. We'll start there. And then Winnipeg also sitting at 26 right now with a bit of cloud coverage and some sun. Quebec City at 24. Toronto, a nice bombing 31 degrees right now. 22 out in Halifax with some cloud coverage right now. Vancouver, sitting at 25 with clear skies and a little bit of sun. Clear skies in Edmonton, though. Whitehorse sitting at 11 degrees. One of the cooler areas in the country, sitting 11 with some showers. And Yellowknife sitting at 20 degrees with a sun and cloud mix. So here's what we could see for tomorrow. We could see a lot of 30-degree marks in the Lakeland areas here, including out in the Marwayne, Pierceland, Cold Lake, and Bonnyville, all hitting the 30-degree mark, along with Vegreville, Vermilion, and Wainwright sitting at 31 degrees tomorrow. We come up just shy of 29 degrees tomorrow, but don't be surprised if we end up reaching the 30-degree daytime high. We'll sit at 29, 32 down in Provost and Macklin for tomorrow, and 29 degrees in Lac La Biche. So here's what the next 7 days could look like, though. We could have back-to-back days here of 29 degrees, cold, maybe 30 as well, as I did mention. Then 26 degrees on Thursday, where we could get some showers with that 52% chance there. A little bit clearer on Friday as well, high at 25 degrees. 27 on Saturday with a sun and cloud mix, possibly more showers on Sunday with a high at 28 degrees, and then 25 on Monday to wrap up the 7 days. That is a look at your 7-day forecast. We'll have more primetime local news after this.
I'm joined here with Tony Bennett, and he is with Home Hardware Lloydminster. Now, people may have a lot more time on their hands with the pandemic, and for those looking to complete some home renovations, if they came down to the store, what are some things that you would recommend, and where do you think they should start?
Well, definitely what we've noticed on our part is the home renovations and backyard projects during this whole COVID situation. A lot of people have had a lot more time on their hands now, so everyone's kind of working more towards their yards, their outdoor projects, decks especially, gardens, painting, staining, even just renovations in the backyard. There's been a lot more of that in these past few months than anything else. Of course, there's old renovations in the home is a big thing as well. It's like, people upgrading their paint, their flooring, even just minor changes. That's kind of more or less what's been going on in the last few months that we've been seeing on our end, to the point where, outdoor lumber has been flying through our doors like crazy. So.
And if someone was looking to do something with their patio or in their deck, what are some things that you recommend?
More or less, a lot of people have been doing the staining, like I mentioned before. They're doing the stains, the upgrades, or changing their wooden decks to composite decking. Something that's going to be last a lot longer, not having to be treated, just kind of lay it down, forget about it, kind of thing. More people have been seeing even screening their decks if they are able to.
And if maybe someone's doing their first renovation or their first project for their backyard, what are some products that you are recommending to people right now for maybe just people who aren't quite sure what exactly to do?
A lot of people have been putting down stone or like sidewalk blocks, areas that are doing like a fire pit. There for a while, we were selling a lot of fire pits. So just kind of getting the ground prepared, putting down the stonework, making sure they're doing it properly. Simple to do, but of course there's certain things to make sure it's done right, kind of thing. So that's kind of more or less a lot of people building pergolas or gazebos in their backyard, small projects along those lines.
And what would you say are some of the most popular items during this pandemic so far that it's been hard to keep in stock?
The outdoor treated lumber has been the big thing. Even for ourselves, we brought in a lot of play sets for children to assemble. So that's another thing that a lot of people have been going that route as well.
And, you kind of mentioned this, but would you say that those backyard projects and like decks would probably be the most popular since the pandemic has started?
Generally, everyone's wanting to get outside. I think everyone has kind of been so balled up for so long. They just want to get out, enjoy the sun, enjoy the weather, providing it's sunny, and just to work on a project, just to keep them occupied during these kind of strange times.
And if someone did come down to Home Hardware and they came and they wanted to get some advice on just anything around their home, especially for the summertime with people taking more staycations, what would you say?
What are they envisioning? What is it they're looking for? What's the grand scope of their backyard or home renovation that they're looking to do? And between myself and my other associates, we can help kind of find out what exactly the route they're looking to go.
Now, this pandemic has probably given people more time to focus on projects that they may have put on the back burner before, and that includes cabins.
We've definitely seen an increase in that over the last few months as well, where people have land and they're looking to build that lake, looking to build something on that lake lot, cabin or whatever, much like we have like our show home on our parking lot here. A lot of people have been doing, like I've been personally doing a lot of tours throughout the house and, talking with people, seeing where they're looking to go, what they're looking to build. People have been sitting on lots or interested in the idea, but just never really time allotted to really kind of focus more on it. Whereas now the whole COVID situation has given people a lot more time to reflect and then, decide maybe there's something we should move forward with because we're kind of unsure what the future is going to bring here. Let's get moving on this. A lot of clients that I've talked to, I've done the tours through the show home and then just speaking with them, a lot of them have been sitting on the fence over the amount of X number of years. But again, it's that time to kind of reflect and see this is something we should really move forward with because, we don't know what the future is going to bring, especially now with everything happening. No one saw this coming about a year ago.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Tony.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery and Furniture House, downtown Lloydminster.
Tiger Lee and Brad joined me today. They're part of a group called Vermilion Unites for Equality. Thanks for taking some time to talk with me today, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem at all.
So first of all, I just want to start off. Can you tell me a little bit about this group?
Yeah, so Vermilion Unites for Equality is a peaceful anti-racism group, and we're comprised of a collective of residents from Vermilion and Lloydminster. We want to bring light to the racial prejudices that are happening here and around the world and promote inclusivity for all marginalized groups. Some of our objectives are mental health, addictions, and other social supports, clean water for First Nations communities, to spread education and awareness regarding BIPOC history and systemic racism, and to work with similar groups across the country.
So how did this group come to be? How was it organized? Stuff like that.
Well, the group kind of came to be. I made a post one day in a Vermilion online sales group that to say we received backlash would be an understatement. And it just kind of spiraled from there. Tigra reached out to me, and we, thankfully, I might add, and kind of got me on the right path, organized me, and gave us the idea of where we wanted to go, and it just became what we are now through that.
Yeah. So the group was formed after the George Floyd murder, and it was originally supposed to be a protest, but we both knew that we needed to continue our group meetings after the protest. So we've been meeting once a week since June 20th. The protest is a great way to spread awareness for what's happening, but we need real long-lasting change.
Now, and you said you had the protest and you've been having weekly meetings. What kind of things do you guys discuss in the meetings? And do you have any other kind of events or things that you plan to do in the coming weeks?
So our meetings are for the community to come out and give us suggestions on what they would like to see happen in their community, so Vermilion and Lloydminster. Regarding events, we do have a few events in motion that we would like to hold in Vermilion and Lloydminster. One of them being a blanket exercise, which will be a great icebreaker between Vermilion Unites for Equality and the community. The blanket exercise, it brings awareness and education to the oppressions that happen to the Indigenous people. We have made connections with groups in Edmonton, the Edmonton Fight for Equity group, and the We Will Not Be Silenced group.
Just to touch on that with the We Won't Be Silenced group, they're doing a protest / fundraiser Sunday, August 8th in Edmonton. And the money is going towards a woman who is getting water testing trucks and testing treatment materials to bring clean drinking water to communities in Alberta that don't have it right now. And so that's a big one we're kind of really working with them on and helping them out as much as we can from Vermilion and Lloydminster, but also we'll be there on the 8th.
Yeah.
And why do you think it's important to have a group like this in the Vermilion / Lloydminster area? Why was it important for you to set this group up to show support to the community?
This group is very important, especially when Brad had originally put his post out on Facebook. It really brought awareness to the fact that a lot of people don't think that racism exists anymore. Or they think that it's not happening in their own communities. And we've had multiple situations of, it's so apparent, like we've had people post posters on their trees saying that white lives matter and black lives don't matter. Today we woke up to a post with a guy asking to join him with his White Lives Matter. Yeah.
Be proud to be white.
Yeah, be proud to be white. And it's very prevalent in rural Alberta. I also think it's important to spread
awareness and education in the school system as well regarding BIPOC history and where it started. And I think it's important that marginalized groups have a safe place to come and express their own experiences and to offer ideas on how we can make our communities better.
So just before we go, how can people that want to either take part or learn more about your organization, how can they connect with you guys?
So find us on Facebook, Vermilion Unites for Equality, as well as the We Won't Be Silenced group in Edmonton is a great one to be a part of, fight for equity as well. You can reach us or any of the other organizers that might have better answers through those groups as well. Again, every Thursday in Vermilion on 54th Street and 50th Avenue, next to the community gardens, we hold these events. So if anybody wants to come out, we're also going to be having petitions, signable petitions for Bill 1 and Bill 32, as some of the online petitions usually don't get the traction that they need. So we want to have signed ones that we can send into Edmonton.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking some time to talk with me today. And I hope you guys get a lot of people interested in talking with you and growing your guys' community. And I wish you guys have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, taking one last look here at your weather forecast. 29 degrees tomorrow, then 29 on Wednesday, as we currently are still under that heat warning right now. 26 also for Thursday, as we could see possibly some showers coming in the mix there. 25 on Friday, 26 for Saturday, more rain possibly on Sunday with high 27, and then also 27 degrees on Monday.
Thanks for joining us for Primetime Local News. Have a great night.